Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Share and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connect dot, an epiphany, a mind blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work, and all the links are in the description box below the video. Hi. I'm sweaty. It's hot out. It's humid. Crazy today. Crazy energies. Is cleaning. Try to sort some stuff out. So the reason why I didn't do a video yesterday was because I heard a really loud bang. And the pole in my little closet, so I have a bedroom down here that's gonna eventually be where I occupy, but I'm still putting things up and I'm still like organizing clothes, and it's a crazy, like, anybody who's moved, this is my second move, but when I moved into the house I was occupying for almost my entire life, I was a child and my mom did all of the work. Like, this is a huge undertaking, so please bear in mind when you move, it's arduous, it's insane. So the pole that had all my hangers on it collapsed, so I had to take everything off and then run to the store to find a store that has the pole, put the pole in, and then I had to get another like cube, the cubby storage, the cubes. I had to get one of those. So I did that last night, and I didn't even realize the time because I just do me. I'm also making some new artwork. So it's been a little crazy. I'm thinking about opening up a SD shop. I don't know. I'm still like looking into where I want to sell my artwork, but also my epoxy resin stuff. That is the original reason why I created this channel. So I'm looking into all of that. Stay tuned, because I know a lot of people in the past have emailed me, and I was like in between my moving and all of that stuff was packed up. And now I'm still unraveling all of it and finding places for it. Because again, I don't have closets in this house. 3. And they're tiny. And they're for clothes. Or I don't have an attic either, and I don't have a garage. Like, the attic is just, it's not a place to store things. Just let's put it that way. So I have nowhere to put things. So I'm working on it. So I do apologize. The truth about evolution in the Bible. Going back to the Curtises, gonna do this book, and I hope tomorrow to start a wasp bay. I'm just too hot and too bothered to have to sit there and try to pronounce things that I know I can't, and I don't want to get frustrated. So last time we had the serpent power, and this time it's unity and duality. And this, I think, is extremely important, because this is a defining factor that I'm seeing in a lot of things. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll give my thoughts if something like blows my mind. But we really need to understand this duality concept, because a lot of people dismiss it. Nothing is all light and love. There's darkness too, and the darkness is what we need to learn from. Again, it's all from source. Quote, love is self-complexion, but the union of corresponding opposites in the same substance, and sex has its origin in the very nature of deity. End quote. The Perfect Way, Kingsford. Quote, the underlying reality which finds ultimate expression in the physical bodies of individuals is the principle of the positive and negative forces of the universal life energy, which has brought all organized forms into existence, from the compounds of minerals, atoms to men. End quote. The Seventh Seal, Agnes. If we study the book of nature as a primer in which the law of manifestation is shown, worked out for us in the lower kingdoms, we find that all things have their beginnings in some kind of germ or tiny seed, some little and seemingly insignificant happening, often very remote from the results, just as an entire city may be devastated by a fire, which sprang from a tiny spark carelessly dropped miles away, or by a tidal wave resulting from an upheaval in a far distant ocean. The city is not destroyed as a punishment, but as the outworking of inexorable laws, both physical and karmic. Hence, it is the seed cause which we must find and counteract if we are to change the results. This world we're populated in right now. For karmic conditions which may devastate a region, a nation, or a race may arise from just such seemingly insignificant and remote causes. It is a lack of understanding of such causes which results from a lack of proper moral and religious instruction that is causing many thousands today to say, quote, let us eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, end quote. One of the fundamental laws of nature which strikes to the very heat of civilization and all organized society is the law of sex. And here we must remind our readers of what we have repeatedly stated elsewhere, namely that this earth is a planet purposely created as a stage upon which it is to be worked out a new scene in the great cosmic drama, a new problem and test not found on any other planet. The problem of the manifestation of the spiritual unity of soul in the duality of the sexes. Hence, the law of sex and all that pertains to it is the lesson of lessons for mankind to learn, all other being secondary and relative. Our failure to learn this lesson and the consequent misuse and perversion of our creative forces is the underlying cause of the troubles and disasters of all kinds, which are now reaping, not as a punishment, but as to awaken man to his dependence upon the divine and his need for seeking out and obeying divine law, that his mind can be illuminated to understand and correct his mistakes, or pass out of physical incarnation and learn the lesson in higher realms. Pause. Hi. Again, their books are screaming this time frame. Screaming. As we're seeing tragedies and weather disturbances and things that we always want to know why. Just telling you. And they're not the only one to say this. Other people, Dolores Cannon is one of them, states this. If enough people create enough negative force, the other force has to come in to equalize and balance it out. That being good, the negative comes in. If it's negative, the good comes in. It's, again, in the Kabbalion, it's always that pendulum that swings, and it's the scale that it's on. It's one scale with two extremes. and you have to come to neutrality in order to balance it out. So things do occur that are not fun. This is the mighty law which, although known from the beginning to the initiates and their advanced disciples, is only now beginning to be recognized and appreciated in its true light by the enlightened students of human progress. But humanity will pay attention and follow this law only when at least a nucleus of enlightenment and souls are willing to devote thought and attention and example of their lives to the promulgation of the fundamental spiritual principles underlying this question, and thus take it out of the realm of mere animal self-indulgence. Just as surely as this planet is one expression or an outbreathing of that God consciousness which underlies, enfolds, and sustains it through the interaction of its positive and negative aspects, just so surely is the soul of a man a ray of that same God consciousness striving to manifest its divinity through two separated bodies of flesh. These bodies being of the earthy, naturally obscure, and limited the outshining of the immortal soul consciousness, according to the degree of their density and lack of response to their divine guidance. But these bodies are nevertheless absolutely necessary as instruments by and through which the soul can contact and find expression in the world of matter. Hence, they are neither to be despised nor their function belittled, killed out, or perverted, since they are composed of the same substances as the earth, gathered together and built up by inner pattern. These bodies must follow the laws of physical evolution under severe penalty of abnormal growth, with all its ensuing results. Hence, incest. After a few generations, or maybe not, you get people who have club foot. I mean, and that's not to say that people that have that were a product of incest. It's just that's a trait that happens more frequently when the same relatives are doing their deeds. Since the body is but the soul's instrument of manifestation, chief importance should be given to soul qualities and spiritual principles instead of the mental and bodily functions through which these souls quality and spiritual principles must necessarily and find expression. And it is only through divine guidance, illumination, and spiritual realization, through divinely inspired teachings, not through mere intellectual activity and reason, that the eternal verities and spiritual ideas can be apprehended. But once these ideals are spiritually discerned and presented to the mind, then thought and reason are responsible for their outworking and manifestation. Unless we understand the spiritual basis and ideals of sex, the mind and reason can easily be led astray into self-indulgence and animalism by all sorts of sophistries, which appear sound and reasonable until checked up and weighed by the true natural spiritual ideals, or else by the inevitable suffering which results from following such sophistries. As we have explained elsewhere, man is the masculine ray or the expression of earth, of the divine father force, that aspect of the divine, which is either fructifying, either creating, expressing itself in form. It is a personalization of that divine potency designed in the creed as God, Father Almighty, maker of all things, visible and invisible. Hence, since man expresses this Father ray, he is the positive pole, and his function life is creativeness. Therefore, the foundation of all his love and his seeking for union with God expresses itself in the desire to fructify and create. Women, on the other hand, is the expression of the divine mother force, that which is called the Holy Ghost, the comforter. In Egyptian symbology, Isis, the great mother; in Hindu philosophy, Vishnu, the preserver. Hence, the foundation of all women's love is divine motherhood. The expression of mother love is women's nearest approach to the divine state. Therefore, the more a woman loves, the more the element of mothering, even her husband, enters into it. Even though she has no children, she will mother all she loves, for this is the fundamental wellspring of her very existence as a separated sex. For this reason, we often find that a woman can live in happiness and express her love and caress, cherishing in a motherly solitude. Me. But a man has his equally strong and divine love built upon the great father force of creativeness. Hence, the more true, sincere, and godlike man grows, the higher, purer, and more intense he will be his desires to fructify and create on all planes. If these two great and fundamental laws of the opposite poles of sex life were better understood, there would not only be less maritable unhappiness, but the race as a whole would evolve much more quickly back to its Edenic oneness. The great lesson for each to learn is that the functions of sex are divine and are not a gift given to man and women as evolved animal organisms merely for the purpose of procreation and peopling the earth, but in innate God qualities. The very essence of their divine oneness, which they are immortal souls, must manifest through their animal bodies. This is necessary as a means of informing, purifying, and evolving those animal bodies to a state of perfection in which the complete God consciousness can flow unimpeded from one to another, and they can be as truly one on earth in two separate bodies as they were in the higher worlds, yet with all the experience gained from the long journey into the far country of embodiment, and the strength and power of sonhood, which has made them truly as one of us, the Elohim. I'm not fond of some of them Elohim peoples. We see, therefore, the sex in man is not merely an animal function for the purpose of propagation of the species, but inheres in the soul itself as the great creative force given it by the Father, and exceeds the mere procreation powers of the animal to at least as great a degree as the soul of man exceeds the animal. For it is one avenue for the expression of the spiritual creative power of the incarnating spirit or living soul, which inhabits the human animal body. With it, after many experiences in the building up physical instruments in many incarnations, man must at least learn how to create a perfect temple of the living God. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple are ye? Interesting there. The problem here is they had no idea about the infiltration that happened to our species. And when we all, you get mind wiped as soon as you enter through your mother's womb, and here you are, you have no recollection, but there are people that do. And I could tell you right now, people that have near-death experiences, people who have been on the other side or can consciously remember where they're projecting themselves out at night. What temple do they have? Are they clean? Are they eating properly? And again, I'm not here to say vegan or plant-based diets. Everything is sentient. In my perception of the world, everything is a sentience. Dolores Cannon talks about it, and so does many others. So you pulling up the grass or eating a root, you're killing it, and it feels the pain. You might not think so because science kind of lied to you, but that's the nature of the cycle of this reality. It's a cycle of life. Bless your food. Bless it. Meditate. Go for a walk. Go in nature. Go sit in a pool. Harmonize with yourself. There's your temple. The bodily organs, therefore, are but the specialized avenues for the expression of the positive and negative creative aspects of the soul, and their activity is of pure, natural, and normal as the activity of the heart and lungs. We do not call thought a mere animal function because it has a physical organ, the brain, through which it functions, even though it can function for the grossest animal ends as well as for the highest ideals. No more then should we say that sex is merely an animal function because it has a physical organs through which it manifests physically. For although they can be used for the grossest animal indulgence, they can also be used to induce the greatest spiritual ecstasy, that which is called sex, when operating through the sex organs of the body, becomes divine creative force. When operating through nature, creative ideation, when functioning through the mind and the outgoing of the divine breath, or the urge to manifest of the God creativeness, when functioning through the cosmos. The oneness of the two, or unity and duality, we have seen is illustrated by the allegory, keyword, of Eve being taken from Adam's side and by the tree in the midst of the Garden of Eden, which was a symbol of the great and primary lesson of sex. The oneness of the two who spiritually belong to each other, the one representing the leaves, the other the seed bearer or fruit, yet both the expressions of the one sap. And only as man learns this lesson and makes it govern his whole life can he obtain true peace, harmony, and love on earth, and cooperate with the divine as a perfected instrument for his manifestation on earth. Only as he eats of the fruit of the tree of good and evil in accordance with the divine law will it prove good and make him as the gods, for it will produce endless evil when partaken of merely as an animal function and with any but his true spiritual mate. Like the tree, there must be the outer framework, the branches and the leaves, the masculine elements, which are able to withstand the storms and stresses of physical conditions. Yet these alone can never form a perfect tree. There must also be the inner sap, which draws from the earth, the air, the water, the sun, the inner life essence, with which to vitalize the outer form and bring forth beauteous blossoms and nourishing fruit, the feminine elements. Therefore, only as man and woman learn this lesson of oneness, harmony, and perfect cooperation of their life on earth and the realization of their immortal destiny. Just want to put this before I move on to the next chapter. Yes, my hair is really, really long and air dried. I haven't been in a relationship in 13, now going on 14 years. There's lots of reasons for this, but I haven't found my frequency match. The man that is going to come walk into my life, and it could be a woman too. I'm into men. I haven't found my frequency match yet. Someone that's on my vibrational, they don't need to be into spiritualism. They don't need to do any of that. I got my artwork right there. It's on canvas drawing. I haven't found my match. There are a lot of people I know in my, growing up and people that I have been in high school and college with that run into a marriage, head over heels, blinded in love. And like soon after something sparks, they didn't see this other side of this person because they didn't give it time, and there's a divorce. I can't tell you how many of my friends divorced. they run, because a lot of people are codependent upon another person. They need, it's a need. It's not a want. It's a, like, I need to have somebody in my life or else I cannot function. I need somebody else to help me go through life because I can't do it for myself. That's not a divine union, in my opinion. Two beings who have the frequency match comes together, it's a give and take. It's compromising, it's coming together into forming the union. It's taking both poles and bringing them together. Whether you're not, you create a kid or not, doesn't matter. The union of energy and frequency is there, and that is what's needed. And this is important, not to rush into anything that you don't think you can handle. And if you feel that that person might change in 10 years, or their attitudes towards life will change, and it doesn't align with yours, does that mean that you have to have a divorce? Unless they're hurting you, destroying your property, and really are horrible to you, which then you should have really, people turn. This is what's corrupted in this world right now. We have this concept that everything's about sex. We have sex appeal. We have people going out and half naked into the world. And yes, everybody has a beautiful body. I don't care how big or small you are. But there's a way to go about showing yourself out into the world with respect. There's a way, I can't tell you what I thought I was going out looking crazy, going to like a club, until I met my matches. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm rather normal. Holy crap. And here I'm thinking I'm the skinky one. Crazy world we're living in. And that's all by design, by the negative influences and thought forms that are presented into this reality that people pick up and run away with it. You can do life by yourself. And your frequency match might be a best friend. Sometimes it's a long wait before, and I'm in that long wait period, I'm in that percentage, to finding somebody who's going to compliment me, uplift me as I do them. If it comes this lifetime, wonderful. I would love to have help, especially stuff that I'm just not physically strong, and I'm pretty strong, but not that strong where I can lift a shed roof over my head and zip it in. You need people. And the hard part about it is, where are these people when you really need them the most? And if they're not frequenting in you have to say goodbye. And sadly, I had to say goodbye to a lot of people. But that also goes in relationships. Let's breathe, because I know many of you who are watching this have had this situation at least once in your life, where you had a karmic relationship with somebody that you owed, or they owed you karma. It's real. And it sucks, but it's a learning situation. If you take everything in a situation of learning, and how do I get my temple to be better? How do I get myself more on the middle way path where I'm on the God level, I'm on God path? How do we get there? How do we walk that path? And again, being human is to have flaws. It's just overcoming those flaws and coming over those things that have put you in that cycle. Get out of the cycle. Seriously. Chapter 14, the Twain, one flesh. Quote, but from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. So they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. And quote, St. Mark. Quote, all souls are pre-existent in the world of emanations and are in their original estate androgynous. But when they descend upon the earth, they become separated into male and female and inhabited different bodies. If therefore in this life the male half encounters the female half, a strong attachment springs up between them, and hence it be said that in marriage the separate halves again conjoined and are akin to the cherubim. And quote, the Kabbalah unveiled Mathers. In the previous volume, we have shown that all manifestations of the Godhead must contain a reflection of the triangle, the inner reality, the outer manifestation, and the life force which unites the two. Else the deity would not be represented in his works. In this volume, we have shown that as the androgynous soul, the spiritual man or higher self, descends into the world of material manifestation and comes under the overruling law of duality, the soul must separate into its masculine and feminine expressions, man and woman. Since these two separated rays of the divine proceed from the same divine source, they can find the perfect expression of their divinity on earth only as they find each other and unite to form the baseline of the perfectly balanced equilateral triangle, whose apex is their higher self, or the personal Father in heaven common to both. Herein we have plainly pointed out that true marriage is really made in heaven, where the two are one before their separation on the physical plane. We have also presented the diagrams, which give the geometrical proof that a true marriage cannot take place between any man and any woman, but only between one particular man and one particular woman, namely the particular individuals who embody the masculine and feminine rays from the same soul or higher self. This is, of course, no new doctrine, but has been taught throughout the ages by the great philosophers and spiritual teachers of practically every age and every race. Jesus plainly taught this when he said, from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder, end quote. Only the two who are manifestations of the one androgynous soul or higher self, and who are already one in the higher realms from the beginning of the creation, are the ones whom God hath joined together, and not any man and any woman. For it could only be the particular man and the particular woman who were true complementary spiritual mates, who were joined from the beginning of the creation. These are the ones who may not be put asunder. In the above quotation, Jesus had just approved of divorce for those whom God had not joined. Hence, he implied that no mere human ceremony could constitute a true spiritual marriage. For a human ceremony cannot join the two from the beginning of the creation. It can only give public recognition to and solemnize the union of earth of their particular two, whom God hath already joined in the higher realms from the beginning. The fact that we may feel strongly drawn to several persons of the opposite sex is not an argument against the fact that there is but one in particular who is our mate. It simply means that all such persons are with whom we have set up strong ties in past lives, ties of brother and sister, parent and child, friendship, business, personal service, or of man and wife, even when not mates. When we meet such persons in this life, we naturally feel the vibration of the old attraction or perhaps antipathy. The attraction is often mistaken for that of the true mate, but marriage made under such conditions can never be satisfactory. Those who desire promiscuity in this life are those who have been promiscuous in past lives and have yet not learned their lesson, hence will have to go through the resulting suffering again in this life. We have previously explained if, for instance, a masculine personality or expression of the higher self, A, unites with the feminine expression of the same higher self, A, to which it could alone truly belong as they advance spiritually and evolved upward toward the higher self common to both, they must necessarily grow closer to each other on all planes, for they are evolving toward union with the same overshadowing higher self. But if a positive personality of the higher self A should unite with the negative personality of the higher self, of which it is not an emanation, say, of the higher selves B or C, then as each personality advanced spiritually and evolved upward along its way toward union with its higher self, instead of the two personalities growing closer together on all planes, they must inevitably grow further and further apart on the higher planes. And this ultimately lead to separation on both physical plane, for each one is evolving toward union with a different higher self. Pause. I resonate with this so much. So much. Although I have not been in many relationships, I've been in a lot of weird, I don't even know what to call them, situationships, like friendships, a little bit more, but like what I'm reading right now. That's to me the ultimate truth. And for many of us who are aware, it's so much harder to find your other counterpart in this crazy world, because sometimes they are so separated by space, time, distance, lands, cultures. It's not easy, especially people who are aware of this. Therefore, there may develop great inharmony on the physical plane in this case, not because they are becoming less spiritual, but because they are advancing and being drawn into different currents of force which do not harmonize or lead to the same higher self. And as the great law of divine love ever seeks greater and more perfect expression of harmony, the great law tends to separate them that each may be able to manifest a higher state of harmony. In such cases, separation on the physical plane, instead of being a calamity, is a blessing and absolute necessity for the spiritual advance of each. And that's so very true. Since the masculine and feminine aspects of the soul were necessarily separated to enable them to incarnate in the flesh, naturally the ideal state, when thus incarnated, is for the two to be united on earth, as they already are in heaven. In exclusive and God-ordained marriage relation, the highest ideal for the evolution of the soul in matter is therefore the reunion of the separated aspects of soul, and their learning hand in hand, and their great lessons for which the soul comes to earth. Unless the marriage relation contained a function, an experience, and a lesson necessary for the soul's perfect unfoldment, the all-wise and loving Creator would never have made such a function a fundamental law of man's existence, even of nature itself. No one, therefore, who advocates celibacy or the killing out of this function as an ideal can possibly fulfill the law of duality thereby. But we must have an adequate conception of that problem and study its ideals, as revealed through inspiration from the higher realms, if we are to understand how properly to fulfill the law. Through this study, we see that the law is fulfilled only through love, for love, which is God, is the fulfilling of the law, or the purifying, spiritualizing, and transmuting divine radiation, which, when truly invoked, raises the function far above its mere physical aspect of animal gratification and procreation to a spiritual union of soul with soul. While the outer man is an animal, he is capable of grasping that which is more than animal. For the presence of the inner man, made in the image of God, enables man to raise his conception of the marriage relation from a mere animal function to that of a sacred sacrament, in which the physical relation and its sensations are transcended and the separated personalities are temporarily merged into the one spiritual essence, the soul, so that the twain become one flesh, although in separated bodies. Sexual union merely for the satisfaction of animal compassion between any but true mates is a union of body only and not of soul. And as their polarities are not complementary on all planes, even if they are so on the physical, such a union cannot make the magnetic connections and conditions so necessary for the inflow of the higher spiritual currents, which produce the spiritual and regenerative effects. Such a union, therefore, creates only after the lusts of the flesh, for the true love and aspiration is necessary to generate the spiritual impulse, which draws down the divine fire, also necessary to generate children of the new age, is lacking. In fact, is impossible under such conditions. Therefore, there can never be true satisfaction, even physically, only temporary animal gratification between the unmated or through promiscuous intercourse. If the two are not spiritual mates, a union can never bring the perfect satisfaction, harmony, and happiness of unity and duality. For there can be no true satisfaction on earth except as a human personality makes contact with the temporary expresses a vibration from the spiritual or higher self, from the thrill that the results from an unselfish deed, a kind word, or a generous forgiveness, to the ecstasy of continuous union between true mates with their common higher self. In the union of such mates, although animal gratification is not the object or thought held, the animal nature is more than satisfied purely incidentally, for it is engulfed and uplifted, and its consciousness transcended by the vibrations of unity with divine, which such a union produces. Also, in such a union, there are no psychological obstructions to the inflow or higher currents, for there is no sense of shame, guilt, or impurity to short circuit such currents, only an overflowing and all-encompassing realization of divine love. In this connection, we often hear remarks from so-called advanced women students that they have risen above or have outgrown or advanced beyond all sexual desires. Such expressions show a total misconception of the entire subject, which is the natural outcome of the false interpretations of the doctrines of the fall of man and original sin, of something inherently impure in this sex relation, when such statements are sincere and not the result of self-righteousness and a desire of the woman to appear superior to her husband, and shows her attitude of mind, her attitude of non-cooperation, or even aversion, has a short-circuited both in the higher spiritual currents and even the physical magnetic currents, that she has become frigid and incapable of response. She thus makes the ceremony as unsatisfactory to her husband as to herself. I'm not gonna lie, I know a few cases. It's not funny, but it is. Oh my goodness, if I can go on about that alone for hours. Just on that last date. Oh my gosh. This book is incredible. Through the results of her misunderstanding of this function and her mistaken attitude of mind concerning it, she has only too often added to the already great army of unhappy and ineffectual marriages, which are a great factor in holding back the higher unfoldment of mankind, and inharmony, suffering, and disease are the result on earth. While in the higher realms, the great army of advanced souls who are seeking the conditions of understanding, peace, harmony, and love, so necessary for their incarnation, are crying out, "How long, O Lord? How long?" It is true. I ask my parents upstairs all the time, like, it's been a while. I can't even, like, when I'm amongst other females and I'm out in public, I don't even get a look. And I don't think I'm a 10. I don't think I'm hideous. I think I'm my own being. It's just really bizarre how the frequency that I hold is very unique. And I don't know what it's going to take to, like, put the radar out and, like, the sim cube above my head. Merkaba, we can call it the Merkaba instead of the cube, and it, like, does its thing. And, like, I don't know. I don't know. But I do ask all the time. Like, even my cat in spirit said, my mommy's alone. It's kind of sad. But again, moving past myself, I know a lot of people either have been widowed, lost their spouse, lost their connection, because things in the physical do happen. And then the tough part about that aspect is that once your true soul mate passes, you're left with such a void. It is very hard to come back from that. And I saw that with my adopted parents. They were totally soulmates. Totally, the way they met to the way they ended their lives. And not to say they took their lives, like, no. My dad passed away from a fatal disease called scleroderma, and my mother had congestive heart failure. When my dad died in 2005, like, my mother was left empty, holeless, in the void of space, did not want to do anything. She did not have, the only way she lived was, like, vicariously through me. She was, the void in her was so mad. But, with time and me explaining how death works and trying to get her to, like, wake up, and just to spiritual stuff, not to wake up to anything else. She finally did once, like, weeks before she died, which is really, I'm happy about. But I know a lot of people that are watching my videos either have personal experience with your parent losing their intimate other. And you could see if they're really true soulmates, you see that it's devastating, and you feel the void that they hold because they just lost, like, their other self. Just, it's mind-boggling. But I know there's so many people out there, and it's becoming more rampant. Death is becoming crazy right now. I still have, videos I did a few weeks back. I lost like 5 people within a week that I personally knew, and now there's more. It's insane how, we're really being harvested, guys, like raw. We're really up for graduation. And those of us who are still here keep on pushing forward. I keep on pushing forward every day, even though there's some days that I wake up and I don't want to wake up. It's hard. And it is a struggle when you are alone. having a purpose. My purpose was taking care of my mother. I had to find other things to fill in so that I didn't feel so. But I'm sure a lot of you at home feel very similar or can relate at least to something that is being spoken here. To think of sex relation as a weakness of the flesh, which should not be yielded to its perversion of both mind and the God-given function. For without the right attitude of mind, the mere union of bodies cannot produce the magnetic and vibratory harmony physically, mentally, and spiritually, which alone can bring down into the body the uplifting and transforming effects of the spirit, or which can give incarnation to advanced sensitive souls being birthed out. No woman who is normal physically can be frigid. Again, guys, I know there's some women out there going, what the hell? Understand when this was written and the context it's written in. It's not going against women. I don't have that vibration. It's just, look, when you're reading philosophy from the 1800s, like, women were this inferior to male, and that's always in this kind of society. But guess what? The Aquarian age is coming, and where the feminine is coming back, but we got to balance it. We're not taking and emasculating. We're not taking away the masculine, because this is the problem. We've been overly emasculated. We need to bring in the feminine to just equalize. That's really what we need to work on, is taking the over masculine energy that's inhabiting our reality and kind of equalize it out with the feminine, not to over feminize things. We don't want that. We want balance. We're not seeing that so much in this world today. I can't imagine why. So this frigid thing gets me all the time. No woman who is normally physically can be frigid unless she short circuits herself by mental attitude. If she desires to respond and cannot do so, there's something abnormal, some physical disability, some contraction, adhesion, misplacement, or tumor, which can usually be easily remedied by her family physician. Again, think about the time that this was written. All such conditions are physical results built into the body because of the false conceptions of sex in this and past incarnations, of believing that God made sex as a temptation to be overcome, or as but a degrading animal function that he was unable to eliminate when he created man in his own image and likeness. We have shown in previous chapters that sex can never be wiped out or done away with as long as man manifests on earth under the law of duality. But it can and must be purified of the false conceptions in regard to it and used for the highest ends. Nor can sin, sickness, and disease be overcome and its further generation stopped until humanity learns this lesson. For these things can never be driven from the earth as long as mankind continues to create them through the ignorant and perverted use of creative powers. Due to the lack of power and proper instruction and wrong thought concerning them. Truth. Because of the invasion that has taken place, more of the negative Nancys have calmed down and wiped us of our memories and implanted the stupidity in us and the reptilian brain and all this crazy shit. We've been taught these things. We wouldn't have nuns and priests. And I know many people that go to pastors and stuff, they're married, but there's a certain sect of the church that no, I'm married to God, and that's cool, but like, you're totally missing this point. And again, not everybody that comes and incarnates on earth is going to have children. I am one of them. And not because there's something wrong with me. Well, there is in physical form, but I'm not meant to have kids. I'm not meant to stick around to have karma. Meaning, even if I pass and ascend and I have kids, they're not ascending yet. I still have a tie to them, which means I will ascend, but I would have to watch at a far distance. And then I would want to come incarnate again. And they'll keep me in a cycle that I don't want to have to repeat over and over and over again. So I chose, I think, in this life not to have kids so I can just. I'm excited about that. If a wife is really more advanced and more spiritually unfolded than her husband, instead of self-frighteously, it's not selfish, it's frighteously, looking down upon him as a mere male with unspiritualized animal instincts, which must be indulged under protest, she could be the one to lift his mind above the mere animal instincts and teach him to hold the right thought, the thought that the marriage right involves something far higher than unlimited gratification of animal passion. She may look upon sex as a mere animal function, but what animal does not use it normally? Or what animal ever perverts it into the horrible orgies of lusts which some persons make of it because of a lack of such understanding, teaching, and control as the truly advanced woman should teach her husband? What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common, might be better read. What God hath cleansed, that make ye not common and unclean. For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel, body, in sanctification and honor, not in the lust of. I'm going to skip that word for YouTube purposes. For God hath not called us unto uncleanliness, but unto holiness. He therefore that despiseth not man, but God. While response to the body is necessary so that even the body may ultimately awaken in the image of God, nevertheless, that response is neither the aim nor the end of the union. The ideal to be held by both is that the physical union merely completes on the physical plane the union of the two aspects of the soul, which are one in the higher realms. Your higher self, individuated, female, male. For we should understand that the body has been evolved for thus far not merely a physical covering for the soul, but must continue to evolve until it literally expresses the beauty of holiness of divine indweller. We must so sanctify all our acts and thoughts that the whole body shall be full of light. The union on all planes can be accomplished only through love, the quality of love, which, while not ignoring the physical aspect, yet far transcends it. That quality of love which can exist only between one particular man and one particular woman, who are true spiritual complements or mates. Only such can form a magnet which shall draw down the divine fire from heaven to sanctify their union and consume all dross of sensuality. In other words, there must be no thought or impulse that can act as a barrier between the twain and the consciousness of the presence of God love manifesting between and through them. Until this higher consciousness exists, the ideal conditions have not been obtained. Real marriage is therefore truly made in heaven, and its proper consummation on earth brings that heavenly consciousness down to earth to extent of its realization. And this comes about only through pure love and mutual aspiration for union with the divine, and not merely through a union of the sexes. Such true truly mated souls, whom God hath joined from the beginning, no man can put asunder. It is only man-made marriages made in heaven or of the soul, not made in response to the inner soul guidance, but for all sorts of worldly reasons and the mere lusts of the flesh that can and should be put asunder, for they are not married in the sight of God, hence naturally fall asunder. For nothing can constitute a true marriage save the call of divine love for union of the separated aspects of the same soul. This is the divine urge ever working to manifest the law of unity in duality in humanity as in nature, which makes the twain one flesh. These are they whom Jesus spoke. Quote, for when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are they given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven, end quote. Naturally, such true mates neither marry nor are given in marriage when in the higher realms, for there they are already one, and have been so from the beginning. It is only while temporarily incarnated on earth that they have been separated, and therefore need to marry to become one on earth. All harmonious and truly happy marriages are those between mates, whether recognized as such or not. And if each soul truly aspires and asks for divine guidance in this matter, it will ultimately surely be brought into touch with its mate, if that mate is in incarnation. Most unhappy and mistaken marriages occur either because we do not wait for our guidance to bring our true mate to us, or because we disregard it, or because we mistake old karmic ties, often of brother and sister or mother or son, for the call of the soul, or because we simply listen to the lusts of the flesh or yield to the call of the world for wealth, position. In such cases, we must abide by the conditions we have set up until we are freed by the laws of the land, we can seek union with our true mate, or we will have to reap the results of violation of the law, either in this subsequent lives, thus putting off still longer the duty of true spiritual oneness. But all marriages, even between true mates, are not necessarily a blissful dream lived without friction. For instead of mates being affinities, that is, alike, they are opposites or complements of each other, like the right hand and the left hand, each strong where the other one is weak, and hence capable not only of seeing each other's deficiencies, but helping to remedy them and bring of the greatest help to each other. Once they learn to work together, this is often a most difficult lesson to learn, unless it is recognized that marriage is a co-partnership in which both must be willing to sacrifice, each for the other, toward the attainment of their common ideal. Since all persons affect their associates more or less and derive both certain rights and certain obligations from such association, there can be no such thing as absolute freedom where two or more are concerned. Therefore, in entering upon the most intimate, sacred, and character testing of all human relations, both must recognize that they have voluntarily given up their former freedom from the higher state of the unity and duality. Henceforth, neither has the right to act without regard to the other or without considering the effects of their acts upon the other. This does not mean that either should be subordinate to the other, but subordinate to the best good of the two who are now one. Without this willing sacrifice of something of the personality for the good of duality, there can be no true harmonious union of the two. That is the truth. Holy shit. Put up for this one. Today, there are many who, awakening to the vital ideal of true marriage, are no longer satisfied with the mere husks or outer conceptions of life so long considered satisfying. They realize that in contracting a marriage, the moral and religious aspirations of both the man and the woman should be centered in the same ideals, so that they as they evolve and advance toward the realizations of these ideals, they may grow even closer and closer. On the other hand, we hear a great deal about sex equality and sex freedom, which have been made the excuse for the unrestrained indulgence of mere animal lust by many so-called emancipated women without pretense or love or marriage. This is one result of extreme swing of the pendulum of women's rights. And again, we're reading this in an era of time where women were inferior in terms of social. And again, this is like the underlyings of this, but it's the truth to an extent. The reality that we're living in is we're becoming more of a race where the women should be making equal pay to men doing the same job, but not all women could do a man's job, and not all men can do a woman's job. And there's exceptions to those rules, of course, but men are biologically made different from a woman and are highly more muscular. And not in all cases, there are muscular women that are stronger than men, and there's men that are weaker than women. So in this day and age, we're not looking at the simplistic point that they're trying to make. Just realize that there should be equality amongst a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that that's what God built us for. While there should be sex equality and that there should be but one standard of morality for men and women, this slogan should not be made the excuse for women to adopt the double standard or morality from which she has bitterly suffered at the hands of men, or from which she has justly blamed him. And now you can put that in the opposite context of man. So again, it applies to both sexes. And while the normal monthly cycle of physiological activity of women's bodies should naturally give her sex freedom, I don't know where this is coming from, to determine when the sacrament of marriage should be consummated, sex freedom does not mean that she has the right to indulge her passions with whomever she chooses, or because she claims to be the mental harmony or numerical oneness. And you can swing right that back to a man. It's both. You know, guys get high-fived for having 1,000 partners of women, right? And women get cold slut if she slept with more than 2 people. Like, the double standard there is disgusting. But let's be true adults about this and say it's both. It's both sides. When you are doing things out of lust and out of that, you're going to get that result. When you truly find your true mate, and I think we all go through different types of relationships and we meet different people and we have experiences because there's a learning curve there. There's something we needed to learn or we needed to teach another person. And most of the time, let's just say in my relationships, I have learned a hell of a lot, but I have taught a hell of a lot because the way I was treated, I didn't deserve. And I was too blindly either in love or I just didn't have better self-esteem for myself when I was younger, and I did some stupid shit. But those were all learning experiences. Back in the time when they wrote this, 40s, and possibly earlier, just because it's copywritten in 40 doesn't mean that this wasn't already written in the 30s. It was completely different. And I'm going to add this caveat to this because I don't think they're going to have this in here. If you are gay, if you are lesbian, it applies to the same thing, and I'll explain why. You individuated female. This part of your soul individuated male. But one part of you incarnated into a situation that the soul didn't realize that it wasn't going to be whatever, a female, and it came out male. So this male is still looking for this female, but you came out male. Now, because of union and oneness, and you need to get back to your higher self, there's compatibility there, and this is how gayness does work. Okay, that does happen, and it's for our teaching and tolerance, okay, of difference. I have a huge amount of gay friends, and I love them dearly. And they're not the ones imparting their things on children. That's where the problem is lying in society. It's not because you are this and you are that. It's because a child doesn't know these kinds of connections, can't make these connections until they hit puberty. And even then, when they mature into an adult, they're not either given the spiritual understanding or awareness that sex is just more than that lusty little animalistic behavior. That's smut. It is a whole union of finding yourself with another person. So it applies to everybody. It's not just a male and a female coming together and getting married. It's two other people, whether it be two men or two women, coming together and understanding that that's what their soul chose. And as long as they are unquietly in love with each other, they're meeting with their higher selves. And nobody in the religious world should have a problem with that, if you understand what they just said. Taking out the feminine stuff over here. Love is love. And who are you to judge what God wants in his experiment? Well, there should be sex equality, and that there should be one standard of morality for men and women. The slogan should not be made the excuse for women to adopt the double standard of morality from which she has bitterly suffered at the hands of men. And I know I just read this, but I want to read it again. For which she has justly blamed him. And while the normal monthly cycle of physiological activities, women's bodies should naturally give her sex freedom. There's no freedom in sex. Again, I don't agree with everything they write. To determine the sacrament of marriage should be consummated sex freedom does not mean that she has the right to indulge in her passions with whomever she chooses, or because she claims to be mental harmony or numerical oneness with the object of her desire. For women's true function is to draw from its divine source and to conserve and keep its holiness purpose. The heavenly sap from the tree of life, and this can be accomplished only through true love and perfect purity of mind and body with her true mate. When marriage is entered into with this understanding, there will be no need to consider such necessarily ineffective palliatives as trial marriage or a companionship marriage. In the place of true spiritual marriage, palliatives advocate by those so-called authorities whose every statement shows that they have no conception of the essential spiritual nature of sex and the union of polar opposites of the twain, who are one flesh from the beginning. The highest conception of such authorities seems to be that marriage means merely the exercise of animal function, or constitutes merely a biological problem, or is but a social institution. There is also a most pernicious, I can never get that word out, doctrine being put forth in certain quarters, more extensively in Europe than in the country, however, and often in the name of advanced thought or esoteric philosophy, that each person is a part of a group of 7, which any or all of whom may have sexual relations without marriage, because the whole group are soul mates. It only requires a moment thought and the most elementary knowledge of morals and philosophy to see the fallacy of such a claim and how it perverts and denies the sublime and spiritual doctrine of soul mates as expressed in this volume and other truly spiritual teachings. No excuse can be found for this doctrine in either religion or philosophy, for when the sexes are separated, the law of duality, not of multiplicity, came into operation, and the androgynous Adam was divided into 2, and not into a group of 7 or any other number. Male and female created he them. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, that they two may establish a new home, which shall be the center of love and harmony, through which the divine creative force or the Godhead can find expression in humanity. These tendencies of the so-called advanced or radical feminists must be rebuked, discounted, and rejected by all thinking and right-minded people before they spread beyond the limited few moral radicals who espouse them, where they will lead to the same lewdness, debauchery, and degeneration which caused the fall of Rome, which is, we need that to fall anyway, and every other nation which tolerated the violation of marriage right and ignored the sacredness of the ideal of the home as a basis of civilization. These are the days when mankind is reaping that which he has created through following the doctrines of materialism and the worship of Mammon, making wealth and indulgence of his animal self the supreme attainment of life. Hence, many husbands and wives, particularly so-called modern women, are asking today, not do we love, and if so, how shall we sink unimportant and personal differences in order the better to cooperate lovingly in one prime essential, the best good of the home. But many are making the division of the family income the sole standard and basis for continuing the marriage and sustaining the home. No wonder then that we hear the marriage is a failure, and some advocate its abolishment or the ignoring of it. But we should realize that these things are but passing phases and extremes, which mankind is reaping as a result of its former misuse and abuse of the marriage relation. Such ideas cannot endure for mankind, cannot get far away from the age-old standards of morals and conduct advocated by all great religions and found necessary by humanity's experience in all ages without disaster. In the marital relations of the present day, these spiritual lines of force are woefully mixed and tangled, both through the karma of similar mistakes in the past and through allowing other considerations than divine love to bring about a union on the physical plane through marriage or otherwise. But as we enter into the cycle of the new Aquarian age, there must be a great readjustment, an untangling process carried out as rapidly as the working out of past relations permits, so that each may return to his or her true spiritual allegiance and make straight the crooked paths of the spiritual force, or the Christ consciousness can come to each. When society as a whole has suffered enough from these perversions of the doctrine of the freedom of the individual and set to work in earnest to reestablish the higher standards of mutual love, purity, and unselfishness, forbearance, harmony, and cooperation in marriage life, which is God's plan, it will not take long to brush aside these degrading fads. In fact, the moment mankind realizes and recognizes the necessity of returning to the spiritual principles of harmony or unity in duality, which underlie the marriage relation as they underlie the universe, and is ready to say that he is tired of eating the husks of life with the swine and is ready to return into his father's home, where there is enough and to spare, there will be he partake of the feast that is prepared for those who love the Lord. Law. For every true marriage and in human love, in which human love reaches up to and blends with divine love, is a witness onto earth, and divine love has been able to penetrate into the manifest through humanity. Oh no. There's a summary. Oh, I'm going to save that for the next time. I'm really sad. There's another book. It's so short. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed this particular reading. I think it's really important that we take and stomach some of that in, because are you with your true soulmate? And even if you don't feel like you're not, maybe your soulmate didn't incarnate this, your other self didn't incarnate in this time frame, and you got what source would say is your supplement to yourself, the next best thing, because your other part is already gone, and that's okay. So I want to urge people, have this in mind, but don't let it be if you really love somebody and you are with them for a few years and things are just so awesome and perfect, and you've seen every side to them, the ugly, the gross, and you're okay with it all, and they're okay with you, then they're meant to be with you. Only your heart and your stomach, your gut, will know. You know, people get married, someone passes away, and then, you know, years later, you're like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then someone comes into your life and you get remarried, or you are just in a long-term relationship. That's meant to be. Don't hold that as, well, I didn't find that one spark. Well, no. God has a plan for each and every one of us, because we wrote it for ourselves with source and a whole group of people. Things do happen in free will. So it's just a guideline that I think that's really important that people miss teaching to our youth. Because God forbid you didn't have the nasty and you don't know what you're doing and you're a prude. And the labeling in this day and age with these teens is insane. And now, just moving right before school ended, I had a little 2-teen couple sitting outside across the street, all over each other all the time. I'm like, I felt their energy is just lost. It's just getting experience. It's not good. So I'm really sad. Next time we'll read the summary. I don't know how long it is, but I'm sad that this book is just about to end. I think it summarizes a hell of a lot, and it truly shows you how spiritual we really are as a humanity, and that we need to get back to those things. We've been disconnected as a humanity. As many of us are bringing the light to others and trying to pass this informative wisdom to other people, it's all that you can do is seed the little seed and plant. Once in a while, throw that water on there, but not all the time are people going to be receptive to any of this. So, sending each and every one of you protection, light, love, and shielding. Please be safe. The weekend is upon us, almost. Please don't forget to hit that like button, that sharing is caring, and subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of different books. I'm doing really, really lengthy ones right now and short ones in the in-between. Manly P. Hall is a really long book. The Arantia, the Waspe book, even The Law of One is 5 different books. Very long reads. I try to keep as much as I can and then throw in my own rantings and findings in other videos. But I have a lot of things for everybody. I'm also almost figuring out how to get back to my oracle readings. And I know a lot of people that just recently subscribed are like, what? I have a whole oracle reading, and I don't do it like Aries, Taurus. I don't do that. I do a reading for the collective on what we need to, as a collective, work on. And that's on the soul basis. I do other types of readings, but I try to mainly focus on the stuff that's going to help somebody out there, give them hope, or give them a direction to, like, what do I need to work on? I don't know. It helps steer people to what they need to work on in their shadow, or to impart better knowledge on. Who knows? But that's coming soon. And this is trying to cram it all in before I find a job, because I need to work, because I don't get paid to do any of this. And I don't make anything really for doing any of this. So, and again, knowledge is free. You know, help is great too, but I don't get many of that. And I do thank everybody who has contributed to at least help me live last year, because that was insane. So there's a few people from this channel that really stepped in to really help me, and I really appreciate all of you who did. That meant the world to me, and I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for a few people. So I really do thank you. But on a collective note, yeah, it's just me. So till the next one, guys, we'll hit the summary up, and then we'll start a new book. And they have plenty of books. I can't wait to read. So until the next time, guys, have a great one. Be safe, be seen, and I'll see you on the next one.